Welcome to the Systemish show. I'm Tamika Carpenter Carlson, Miss Organization, your launch strategist and expert OBM. I'm your collaborator, your reinforcement, your supporter, and your listening ear. For overwhelmed and busy entrepreneurs escaping burnout to automate, launch, and scale their business. So today, what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about, are your business techniques ruining your relationships? Which I think is super important because in business, you have to know what relationships you're creating within your systems, within your processes, and within your automation. If you do not know, you're setting yourself up for failure. You completely are, right? So if you're new to me, say hi. And if you're coming back for the second or third time, just drop hashtag, I'm not a newbie anymore, okay? Because I like to welcome all the new people and I like to say thank you and appreciate all the people who keep coming back, right? So let's hop into it and let's talk about it. I'm going to talk about 3 signs that you may be headed for ruin without realizing it, right? So I'm going to give you that because at the end of the day, any business you have, any relationships you have, or anything that you have set in motion, when you ruin your relationships, sometimes it's hard to come back and it's hard to bounce back. So the first one is you're doing all the busy work and making no time for self. And that's super important because a lot of times we don't know what the busy work is, right? We don't know what we shouldn't be doing, right? So I'm here to tell you some of the busy work that you're probably doing is you're probably, every email that you're probably sending it one by one instead of batching them, right? Or putting them in a sequence where it's automated and it's going out on its own, right? Another thing that you might be doing that a lot of times they do, right? You might be trying to do your graphics. You might be trying to do your website. You might be trying to make your sales calls. You might be trying to do all these things. And sometimes these are busy work because they consume you and you're not doing your lead generating activities. You're not doing the activities to move the needle of your business. And that's okay because sometimes we just don't know what we don't know, right? So if you're doing all the busy work in your business, it's time to stop doing the busy work in your business. And it's okay for you to outsource, right? It's okay for you to delegate. It's okay for you to bring somebody on, right? To help you with that. So you're not overwhelmed, you're not busy, you're not burned out, right? And you have to make time sometimes for you and for the things in your business that really matter. Because when you're in a business and it's headed for failure, it's because you haven't sat back and really implemented the things that needed to be implemented, right? You might have a plan, but didn't execute on the plan. Or you might have some sort of outline of what it is that you wanted to do, and you're not doing it. And that's okay because at the end of the day, we have all these ideas, we have all these desires, we have all these dreams. But the reality of it is this, right? You don't want to keep doing the things that don't serve you. And those are some of the things that don't serve you at the end of the day. Being in your business, ruining your business is not what we want to do. And I'm here to tell you that yes, it's time for you to realize it. It's time for you to be unbusy, unoverwhelmed, and it's definitely time for you to say to yourself that I don't need to do the busy work anymore because I have techniques and strategies where I can hand them off to somebody else and trust and believe that they're going to do all the things that need to be done. And at the end of the day, you don't have to have all the answers because we don't have all the answers. But what you do have to have is you have to have the faith to believe that whoever it is you bring on board or that you're going to let it go because it's not serving you. Once you put your automations in place, once you set your systems in place, it's a game changer for you and for your business because now you're able to do all the things you want to do, right? You're able to travel. You're able to spend time with your kids. You're able to do everything stress-free, drama-free, and you don't have to worry about ruining your business because your clients are still going to come in, people are still going to come in, and people are still going to opt into your services and want to speak to you because your back end is set up properly. So we want to get you to that place where you're not running around with your head cut off and you're not running around not realizing that you're doing too much, right? And also, you want to make sure that you're being healthy and your health and well-being is in order. Because without any of that, you definitely can't run a successful business. And you don't have to be overwhelmed and you don't have to be busy because there's so much help out there. All you have to do is ask for it, right? This is why, at the end of the day, I love helping people who are overwhelmed and busy. As a mom of 5 children, I completely understand. The thing that saved me and saved my business and some of my clients was the fact that they had automation set up. So now I don't have to feel like I have to send every text message, every email. I don't have to set everything up because it's kind of like a one and done, one to set up. And that's what you have to remember. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a break and then we're going to come back. I'm going to talk more about the signs that you're headed for ruin without realizing it. Welcome back, welcome back. If you're just tuning in, push like, share, invite a friend, and just let me know that you're just tuning in. But if you've been here from the beginning, we are talking about the 3 signs that you're headed for ruin without realizing it because it's super important. And we were talking about, you're doing all the busy work and you're making no time for self. But now we're going to talk about you're feeling overwhelmed and anxious all the time because nothing is going as planned. And a lot of times, sometimes what happens is when one little thing goes wrong, it's like we frazzle or we freeze up, and then we start to really, really go in panic mode. It's okay. Things are going to happen, right? Emergencies are going to come up. But it's more about your comeback than anything. You have to realize that, listen, this is why you have a plan A, plan B, plan C within anything you do, right? Because when plan A fails, you have a backup. When that backup, if it doesn't work, you have another backup. And sometimes it's okay to think off the fly because we're business owners. It's normal for us to say to ourselves, yes, we have a whole plan, but it didn't work out. You don't have to feel like everything's going to work out the way you want it to be because it's not, right? It doesn't matter how much planning you put in place. It doesn't matter how much you prepare for it. Something sometimes is bound to go wrong. It could be a simple technical issue that you have no control over. But guess what? At the end of the day, it's technical issues. And you just let people know that I'm having technical issues, and a lot of times people understand. You have to communicate, right? And you have to let people know what is going on because the theory of it and the thing of it is communication is key, right? And feeling overwhelmed sometimes and anxious is not a good feeling. It's not a good feeling because it puts you in a space where sometimes you tend to forget the bigger picture or why it is you're doing what it is that you want to do, right? Whether it's launching something in your business, or whether it's automating something in your business, or whether it's just scaling in your business, right? Because a lot of times when you're overwhelmed and you're anxious, you have so many feelings, so many things going on that the reality of it is you cringe sometimes because the fact is you're so nervous and you planned and you put so much work into it and you realize at the end of the day that sometimes the work that you put in didn't really work. And that's okay because now you know how to prepare if you do it again. And that's the thing is that you keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it until at the end of the day, it becomes the way you want it to be. And nothing is perfect. I had to realize over time that because I'm a big perfectionist, that it's not the art of perfection. You just have to do it sometimes. Because when you do it, guess what happens? It's the fact that you put yourself out there, but you put yourself in a position where people are like, okay, She's overwhelmed, she's anxious, that's okay. Or he's overwhelmed, he's anxious, that's okay. But they're defying the odds. And that's what you have to do, defy the odds. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what plan you have, what blueprint you have, you can follow it the same every day. But just because you follow it every day the same way does not mean you're going to get the same result or the same outcome. Every day is different, right? So something's going to come up today that might not come up tomorrow or might not come up the day after. But that's okay. I'm going to tell you why. Because at the end of the day, we're human. That's why. So any plans that you have and they don't go the way you want them to go, that's okay. Do it again and keep doing it again. But you don't have to feel overwhelmed and you don't have to feel anxious because the help is out there, right? But not only that, you're not the only person who's dealing with it. There's so many things that happen on a daily basis that sometimes we feel like we're the only ones that are going through it. We feel like we're the only ones that are in a space where we're dealing with it. But the reality of it is some of the things that you're dealing with, somebody else is dealing with. And especially when it comes to your automation, your launching, and your scaling, there's other people who are either have automation in their business, but don't know how to properly put it together, right? Or they're in a place where they have no automation in their business, no systems, and they're wondering why there's so many loopholes, right? So never be ashamed if you're in one of those places, or if you're in a place where you're like, okay, my business is running smoothly. Well, it might be running smoothly, but there are still some loopholes that sometimes you might not see because you feel like everything's together. That's why you have to recheck, double check, and keep testing. And that is what's going to allow you to be able to be like, okay, well, I know my data, I know my analytics, and I know exactly what it is or what position, what place that I'm supposed to go. And that's the reality of it. So planning, perfect. You want to plan? Plan. But just know when you plan, always have backup plans because your initial plan might not go as is. And when you plan, make sure you plan and you give yourself enough time. Because sometimes what happens is we put a plan together and we don't give ourselves enough time because we feel like, okay, maybe we can execute this in 7 days, maybe 5 days, maybe 3 days. Not realizing all the preparation, not realizing all the tasks and all the things that need to be done. And sometimes you can't do it alone. So you need other people to help you. And sometimes when you don't have a team, you might have to outsource, contract, or do the things that feel scary, right? And a lot of times it feels scary, it does, because you're like, oh, I got a plan, it's gonna work. But your plan didn't implement some of the other stuff that it needed, just in case something was to go wrong. And at the end of the day, listen, no plan is perfect. It's not. But having a plan lets us know and lets everybody else know that at the end of the day, you're doing something right because you're taking your craft, you're taking your business seriously with the plan. And that's okay. But just know that being overwhelmed and anxious, that's part of the game. That's going to happen. It don't matter if you're a beginner. It don't matter if you've been in business for years. It doesn't matter. You could be a pro, an expert in anything you do. You're going to get overwhelmed, right? Because sometimes you got to meet deadlines. And sometimes when deadlines come close, it's like you start to panic because you start to say, do I have all of the tools? Do I have this? Do I have that? You know, and at the end of the day, it's kind of like, okay, I might have it, I might not have it. And sometimes people might bail out, right? Now you're trying to scramble. You're trying to figure out what is it that you need to do, right? You can never be perfect in this game. Never. Because you could try to be perfect as all you want to. Everybody has flaws. And when you have flaws, the reality of it is it's okay. Because nothing was meant for you to be perfect. So what we're going to do is we're going to take another break and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about you're always trying to be perfect. What can never be perfect? Welcome back, you guys. We've been talking about the 3 signs that you may have been headed for ruining without realizing it, right? And I know you guys are kind of like, you want more, and that's okay, right? Because we're gonna finish and we're gonna talk about you're always trying to be perfect without never being perfect, right? Because at the end of the day, nobody can ever be perfect. But sometimes we try to be perfect. We try to do everything perfectly or perfect, and it doesn't come out the way we want it to be. And that's okay. Because we have to realize that in the society we live in, the world that we live in, a lot of times we were taught to be perfect. We were taught to be like, okay, well, I have to do this right. I have to go to school. I have to get good grades. I have to. But you don't have to do anything that you don't want to do, right? As kids, yeah, we have to follow rules, we have to follow boundaries, we have to follow guidelines. As an adult, you have to do the same thing. But when you become an entrepreneur, this is your world, this is your business. You set it up how you want to set it up, and you run it how you want to run it. Can't nobody tell you how to run it. Can't nobody tell you exactly what you have to do, right? Because it's your business. Now, what I would say is invite people in, have a team who can, right, brainstorm an idea, some things that you might not see. Because as a CEO, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, we don't see everything, right? Because a lot of times we have our head in the sand and our head is facing one way and not realizing like there's stuff to the right of us, there's stuff to the left of us, there's stuff behind us, and there's stuff in front of us that we don't see. But when we have partners, when we have collaborators, when we have reinforcers, right, when we have that listening ear, we have those people who at the end of the day, they see what we might not see, and they could be like, oh, okay, wait, we moving too fast. Okay, wait, we trying to perfect this. And instead of us getting it out there, seeing what our audience wants or seeing what the market wants, we're trying to do all this perfection in the back end, wasting time, wasting money, and wasting energy. Why? Right? You may have an idea in your head of a business you want to start, but because you're trying to be perfect and you feel like, you're scared, you're afraid, you're anxious, right? At the end of the day, it does not matter. If you have a business in your head, an idea in your head, launch it, right? And if you don't know how to launch it, right, join my text community, and then, right, and then when you join the text community, you'll get tips, strategies about launching, automation, systems, all of that. Because at the end of the day, guess what? You are amazing. And not only are you amazing, you and Tune are like the dopest person ever in your world, in your business. Because can't nobody at the end of the day do what it is that you do. Your ideas are your ideas. Now it's time for you to get them out your head, and not only get them out your head, but put them on paper. And when you put them on paper, guess what? You make it so whereas you are the shining star of whatever it is that you do. So no, you don't have to be perfect. No, you don't have to have all the answers. No, you don't have to have it figured out. Why? Because it's called entrepreneurship. You learn along the way. Just like when you were a baby, you had to learn how to walk, talk, crawl, right? When you got older, you had to learn how to go to school, right? Get good grades. You had to learn how to pass tests. You had to learn a lot of skills. And even now, if you work a job, and your job, you're learning skills every day. That's the same thing as entrepreneurship. You're learning, you're growing, you're scaling every day, right? So if someone tells you this entrepreneurship game is easy, it's not. Yes, is it work? Yes, but it's worth it because you're doing what you love to do. You're waking up every day, you're helping people. You have a mission, a vision, a cause. When you have a mission, a vision, and a cause to help others, guess what? Now you stepped into the world of entrepreneurship because you don't have to be perfect, because no company was ever perfect, right? Just like, for example, Microsoft, you have Zoom, right? You have McDonald's. You think they were perfect when they first came out? No, right? They weren't. They launched campaigns, right? They recreated branding. They did all these things. And guess what? When they did that, you know what they did? They created themselves, because now people started to say, oh, okay, I'm going to McDonald's. Oh, I see a McDonald's commercial. I want that today. And that's what you have to be. You have to be consistent. And you have to say to yourself, it's okay to switch up my branding. It's okay to switch up my marketing. It's okay to switch up my messaging. Because guess what? You're talking to the people that you want to talk to. And at the end of the day, only they can kind of guide you and tell you what they really need help with. But you don't have to feel like, oh, I got to be perfect. You don't have to feel like, oh, I got to know all of this, because you don't. At the end of the day, always remember, you're doing all the busy work and making no time for yourself. Make time for yourself. Because if you don't make time for yourself, what good are you to your business? What good are you to your cause, your mission, your vision? You're not. Because self-care time and self-care and self-love is the best thing you ever can do for yourself. I went through this entrepreneurship game and literally was burnt out. Literally didn't know what to do, had nowhere to turn because I was going. And guess what? When I initially got sick, guess what happened? I initially had to say to myself, okay, yeah, I gotta do something different. I gotta change what I'm doing. And when I implemented self-care, guess what? I learned how to be a real entrepreneur, and I also learned how to love me and take care of me and help the people I'm meant to help. So I'm here to tell you, it's okay. You don't gotta do the busy work no more. Make time for yourself. Yes, you're feeling overwhelmed, you're anxious all the time because nothing is going as planned. Planning is great, but always remember a plan can be detoured. And guess what? Outside of that, always remember that within a plan, right? Every plan doesn't have to have everything together. Remember that, right? Because there are going to be some things in a plan that, guess what, don't go right and may not go right. That's okay. You're always trying to be perfect, but can never be perfect. Guess what? Stop trying to be perfect. Be you. Because when you try to be something you're not, people see that. And at the end of the day, guess what? It's not going to help you. It's not going to help them. And it's not going to help anybody else. But I'm here to tell you that at the end of the day, if you want more information on tips, strategies, and all of that about automation, launching, and outside of launching, scaling to the next level, join the text community, right? Because when you join the text community, you're going to get all that and more. Because guess what? I understand what it's like to be overwhelmed, stressed out, burnt out, overworked, because I was that girl. So now I help other entrepreneurs like myself to come out of that world, because it's nothing like feeling like nobody understands. I understand you. I understand you on so many levels. But guess what? It ends today. It stops today. And guess what? We're going to move on to the next level. And what we're also going to do is we're also going to say to ourselves, guess what? It's time to get our lives together and be the entrepreneurs that we're meant to be. So if you're tuning in now, catch us on the replay. Share, like, comment, and I'll see you guys back next week. And I'm out.